Val Emmons Show, where freedom is cool and political correctness is for sissies.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Val Emmons. We start out tonight's segment with a glimpse into the past of one of the United States' most darker moments, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Texas 50 years ago today. Tonight, I was sitting in my car on my way home from an engagement and prior to the show, listening to the NPR recap of that dark day, and it brought a tear to my eye I don't know why, because I wasn't born until the 70s, but every time I hear these words, I'm moved at the thought of my country and how those who witnessed that time must have felt. Let's listen to a little bit of the portion of the news, which I know you've been hearing all day, so I found something different. So I'm going to play a couple of minutes of that, so just listen.
The memory of every person listening at this moment is flashed back to that day in April 1945 when Franklin Delano Roosevelt...
Excuse me, Chad. Here is a flash from the Associated Press, Dateline Dallas. Two priests who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. There is no further confirmation, but this is what we have on a flash basis from the Associated Press. Two priests in Dallas who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. There is no further confirmation. This is the only word we have indicating that the president may, in fact, have lost his life. It has just moved on the Associated Press wires from Dallas. The two priests were called to the hospital to administer the last rites of the Roman Catholic Church, and it is from them we get the word that the president has died, that the bullet wounds inflicted on him as he rode in a motorcade through downtown Dallas have been fatal. We would remind you there is no official confirmation of this from any source as yet.
Bill, just moments before you brought the flash, I had word from the hospital that the Vice President, Lyndon Johnson, and his wife had just left the hospital and rushed away into a motorcade and departed.
This, Frank, might be confirmation of the flash.
We must stand by for confirmation, as Bill has emphasized. This is rather sketchy information. We will stand by. We should have...
Now, there apparently is word that this AP flash, this report from the two priests, that the president has died of bullet wounds is confirmed. We will attempt now to get to station WBAP-TV in Fort Worth, Dallas for confirmation. We go to newsman Tom Murphy.
Substantiating this, but not confirming it, is a report about 5 minutes ago by the Dallas Police Department to all of its officers that the president had died. Some 3 to 5 minutes later, the AP flashed that two priests at the hospital say the president is dead. Charles Murphy, returning now to NBC in New York.
Word from two sources. Again, it is not...
Bill, all right, we have NBC's Bob McNeil on the line now with a report. Please go ahead, Bob. White House Press Secretary Malcolm Kilduff has just announced that President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is about 35 minutes ago.
After being shot at
by an unknown assailant
during a motorcade drive through downtown Dallas. The president died
approximately 25 minutes
after the attack took place. He had been rushed, bleeding and unconscious, to the Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas, and was given blood transfusions. About 15 minutes ago, reports NBC's Bob McNeil from Dallas, to whom I'm talking now. A priest emerged after having given the president the last rites.
Now, I don't know about you, but that just brings chills to me, because I mean, when Reagan was shot, that was different. I was alive. Of course, he didn't die. I just can't imagine what the sentiment in the country was at that time. I can't imagine what people, this is of course, Lyndon Johnson took over, but it's when you elect a president, you want them to continue on to fulfill what they were elected to do, and he only had 1,000 days in office, but it feels like he was, one of the best presidents we've had in this country. And I know that, he was a Democrat, but I think that he was a conservative Democrat. That's my opinion on that. But anyway, in tribute to President Kennedy, I want to play part of his infamous inaugural address, which to me and many others has been inspiring over the years. And this is exactly how I feel when I think about my country, and he put it into the words so gracefully. So I want to play that for you here, and let's listen.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
I think that is one of the things that's missing in this country right now, and I think a lot of people agree with me. Too many people are more concerned with what their country can do for them without doing anything in return. And I think that until we get out of that our country is just going to keep falling further and further into this abyss, and it'll be harder and harder for us to get out of it. But anyway, okay, let's move on. So, yesterday, in a press release, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, a Republican of Texas, released the following statement regarding yesterday's vote to utilize the nuclear option in the Senate for executive nominees. I know you've heard all about that today, so I won't get into that. Today's unfortunate vote damaged the Senate and was designed to try to change the topic from the millions of people losing their jobs and their health care because of Obamacare. Just like President Obama's promise, if you like your plan, you can keep it, so too Harry Reid repeatedly promised he would not use the nuclear option to change the Senate rules. Both sadly ignored their promises and broke their word. And in yet another partisan abuse of power, the Democrats are now shamelessly working to pack the D.C. circuit so that President Obama's lawless disregard of our statutes and Constitution will not be able to be held accountable by an impartial judiciary. And I think that it's going to come around to bite them in the butt in the end whenever they want to use this as well. I think that this is, the whole purpose of having things like a filibuster and cloture and all of those things and are reasoned because you have to have checks and balances. And when something is not good for the country, you have to have another side, like people say they have the devil and the angel, but you have to have the other side to sit back and say, no, wait a minute, this isn't right, this isn't how things are supposed to be. And if you don't know what a filibuster is, I'm gonna give you the definition. So, using the filibuster to delay or block legislation action has a long history of the term filibuster, from Dutch word meaning pirate. It became popular in the 1850s when it was applied to efforts to hold the Senate floor in order to prevent a vote on a bill. In the early years of Congress, representatives as well as senators could filibuster. As the House of Representatives grew in numbers, however, revisions to the House rules limited debate. In the smaller Senate, unlimited debate continued on the grounds that any senator should have the right to speak as long as necessary on any issue. So in 1841, when the Democratic minority hoped to block a bank bill prompted by Kentucky Senator Henry Clay, he threatened to change Senate rules to allow the majority to close debate. Missouri Senator Thomas Hart Benton rebuked Clay for trying to stifle the Senate's right to unlimited debate. 3/4 of a century later, in 1917, senators adopted Rule 22, at the urging of President Woodrow Wilson, that allowed the Senate to end the debate with the two-thirds majority vote, a device known as cloture. The new Senate rule was first put to the test in 1919 when the Senate invoked cloture to end a filibuster against the Treaty of Versailles. Even with the new cloture rule, filibusters remain an effective means to block legislation since a two-thirds vote is difficult to obtain. Over the next 5 decades, the Senate occasionally tried to invoke cloture, but usually failed to gain the necessary two-thirds vote. Filibusters were particularly useful to Southern senators who sought to block civil rights legislation, including anti-lynching legislation, until cloture was invoked after a 60-day filibuster against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. In 1975, the Senate reduced the number of votes required for cloture from 2/3 to 3/5, or 60 of the current 100 senators. Many Americans are familiar with the filibuster conducted by Jimmy Stewart in the when he was playing Senator Jefferson Smith in Frank Capra's film Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. But there have been some famous filibusters in real life. Senate as well. During the 1930s, Senator Huey Long effectively used the filibuster against bills that he thought favored the rich over the poor. The Louisiana senator frustrated his colleagues while entertaining specters with his recitals of Shakespeare and his reading of recipes for pot liquors. Long once held the Senate floor for 15 hours. The record for the longest individual speech goes to South Carolina's J. Strom Thurmond, who filibustered for 24 hours and 18 minutes against the Civil Rights Act of 1957. And if you recall, Senator Ted Cruz, with his now gone down in history filibuster, where he read Dr. Seuss to his daughters, which I thought was pretty awesome. And that'll go down in history, like him reading Dr. Seuss to his daughters. Anyway, so let's move on. We've got the Nightmare on Health Street update. Don't forget hashtag Nightmare on Health Street. Go ahead and tweet that. After spending $305 million in enrolling 0 people in Obamacare, Oregon is giving up on its online exchange. $305 million. Oh my gosh. The executive director of Oregon's exchange says, "I no longer use the word hope that something is going to work," said Rocky King. "I'm planning to do a full manual system from here through March 31st. We all see how that's working out for the VA. All those backlogged papers. Yeah. Welcome to your Obamacare, people. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services doled out at least $305 million in federal taxpayer dollars over 3 years while Oregon officials ostensibly prepared the marketplace. According to Americans for Tax Reform, taxpayers also spent millions advertising the site. But it turns out, Cover Oregon, the online exchange, won't be going live at all. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. The website's contractor, Oracle, plans to have a website operational to the full public by December 15th, the national deadline for insurance applications to have coverage by January 1st. But King isn't optimistic. The website currently allows residents to compare plans, but is unable to register individuals or determine eligibility for tax credits to offset expensive premiums. Isn't it supposed to be Affordable Care Act? Yeah. Let's just keep that in mind. Another lie, written down lie in the bill that all you people wanted, the Affordable Care Act. But then we have these expensive premiums. Anyway, so while the website woes have kept Oregon from enrolling a single person in a private insurance plan, the only remaining state with 0 enrollees. This state has notably signed up over 70,000 residents to the expanded Medicaid program. The state sent out 200,000 letters notifying Oregonians of their eligibility for the new Medicaid program and received a substantial response for the newest entitlement program. Privately purchased insurance isn't going nearly that well, however. The exchange has received 24,486 paper applications, but has only made 1,371 eligibility determinations, leaving a large backlog for the exchange to catch up on. Imagine that! Imagine that! Cover Oregon recently revealed that the exchange would hire 400 temporary workers to process paper applications. Okay, folks, so when you hear about the unemployment rates going up, I want you to remember this, okay? All these states are hiring people to do Obamacare. It's not really private jobs. It's taxpayer dollars. And what happens when they run out of taxpayer dollars? They ask you for more taxpayer dollars to fund these workers. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Oregon residents will have to file their paper applications by December 4th, an even earlier deadline than most exchanges, in order for them to be processed for coverage by January 1st. So if you're in Oregon, you want to apply, you better get those applications in. Exchange spokesman Michael Cox reported that the new staff would be paid out of an emergency backup budget and wouldn't cost taxpayers additional funding. Okay, we're supposed to believe you when all this other crap was a lie? Come on. Really? Come on. However, King admitted Wednesday that Cover Oregon is $1.7 million over budget now. The exchange intends to withhold 5% of its obligated payment to Oracle, the company hired to build the Oregon website. In any case, the website's failure for the duration of the enrollment period of October 1st, 2013 to March 31st of next year will likely leave both Oregon residents and federal taxpayers dissatisfied. Despite the exchange's failure to enroll any Oregonians, Cover Oregon has run an advertising campaign encouraging residents to sign up at the cost of $2.9 million. A pittance compared to the functional website. Okay, so 2.9 plus 305, that's $505 million now for nothing. Like I said, this is just a glimpse into the future of your new Obamacare, folks. And if you don't like it, take it to the polls, and we can get that repealed. We need a majority in the House. We need a majority in the Senate. Come 2014, I want you to remember that. I want you to hit the streets. Pick the best candidate. Pick the candidate that stands for what you represent. I'm not telling you who to vote for, although when it gets close, I'll give you the stats. But because I truly believe that education is the key. You have to educate people, then you don't have to tell them who to vote for. They'll know who to vote for when they know their constitutional rights. So when it gets closer to that, we'll be talking about that. But let's pack the House. Let's pack the Senate, folks. We have to repeal this bill because it is just a nightmare on Healthcare Street. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said on a conference call organized by Karl Rove's Crossroads organization, this is reported in The Blaze, for large donors and their advisors on October 30th, that the Tea Party movement, in his view, is nothing but a bunch of bullies that he plans to punch in the nose. On the call, according to a donor who was on it, McConnell personally named Senators Mike Lee from Utah and Ted Cruz of Texas as Tea Party conservatives he views as problematic for him. It's problematic for him. Can you take care of my problem for me? God. The bulk of it was an attack on the Tea Party in general, Cruz in particular, the source of a prominent donor said in a phone interview with Breitbart News. But the most memorable line came at the end of the call. McConnell said the Tea Party was nothing but a bunch of bullies, the source said. And he said, you know how you deal with schoolyard bullies? You punch them in the nose, and that's what we're going to do. Oh my gosh, really? Anyway, of course, Karl Rove was in on this. He was on that call as well, but he didn't say it like that, but, he said it a little bit different. The message was pretty well the same, that if we're going to save this thing, we have to back real Republicans. Pointing to how Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid just invoked the nuclear option, breaking 225-year-old Senate rules to slip through President Obama's liberal nominees. An aide to the Tea Party lawmaker said that McConnell's focus on trying to go after the Tea Party has jeopardized Senate Republicans' chances at actually beating Democrats. Under Senator McConnell's watch, Republicans yesterday, just got rolled over by Democrats who pushed the button on the nuclear option, destroying years of well-established Senate order. 225 years of order, people. 225 years of order. And Harry Reid just wipes it out. Perhaps if he focused less on destroying the Tea Party and more on defeating Democrats, he'd have more to show for his leadership. I think that it is time, like I just said, it's time for us to get all these old fuddy-duddies like Mitch McConnell. I mean, really, seriously, how long do you need to be in there? 100 years till you die? I think that it's time that we put some term limits on too, but of course then you have the problem of no senator is going to vote for himself to be outed. Not in any shape or form. Anyway, bullies, huh? You know, since when did standing up for your constituents and the rest of America equate to bullying? At least Senator Cruz is doing what he was elected, and Senator Lee. Cruz 16, folks. I'm on board with that all the way. You know, I got a chance to meet Ted Cruz in Orlando over the summer in August, and he was awesome. He was awesome. Me and my son, we got to hear him at the Americans for Prosperity event in Orlando, at the American Dream Summit, and we got to talk to him because he would come back to the media room, and it was pretty awesome. It was pretty downright. He was pretty good, cool dude. Even my 15-year-old son told him, you know what, your speech is the only one that I actually thought made any sense. And Ted Cruz just looked at me and said, well, thank you very much, young man. It was pretty awesome. So I came across this Obamacare ad called More Than a Glitch, and I want to share it with you because it's pretty hilarious. And you can find it on YouTube. I've posted it on my Facebook page as well. It's www.facebook.com/Val Emmons, and you can find it there. Let's listen.
Now I'm covered.
Now, for the first time, you can be covered. If you've been waiting to be covered in mandates, regulations, and new fees, the time is finally here. Sort of. You guys stop showing that screen. So make some coffee.
I'm covered.
Approach life with reckless abandon. Kick your feet up.
I'm covered.
Because you're going to be in the waiting room for quite a while. But don't you worry your pretty little head off. First of all, it wouldn't be covered.
We're covered.
No, I said it would not be covered.
Now we're covered.
No, that's not... Yeah, I don't think you understood what I meant by covered earlier. It was a little bit ironic. Seriously, stop showing that screen. Healthcare.gov is not responsible for fulfilling any of the expectations, mandates, legal requirements, hopes, or dreams of any users. Results may vary. Consult your Obamacare-approved doctor or pharmacist to find out if Obamacare is right for you. Current waiting lists to have your doctor chosen for you are unavailable and will remain so for the foreseeable future. Obamacare may cause wait times, a decline in healthcare quality, money loss, political activism, anger, despair, hopelessness, frustration, European envy, dependence, and nausea. If you discover that your premiums have gone up as a result of Obamacare, please note that the program is working as intended and refrain from complaining. Call your doctor if you experience anxiety for longer than 4 hours. If you wish to opt out of Obamacare for any reason, please start a multi-million-dollar business, join a union, or run for Congress.
I thought that was absolutely awesome. Anyhow, the White House has moved the start of next year's open enrollment period from October 15th to November 15th after the 2014 midterm elections. Like I said, people, pack the House and pack the Senate. They do this, they did that, they're moving it back. Okay, because they know that people are going to feel people are already hurting from this. But they don't want people to feel the full impact of it until after the elections, because they know that when Republicans take over, it's going to be repealed. It's not going to be pretty if we let this go on what's that word I'm looking for? Unsmashed, undestroyed. We have got to destroy this bill. It's got to be repealed. And we've got to get the folks in there that'll do it. So the Obama administration said the move will give insurers more time to prepare for possibly higher premiums. You get that? That is like to possibly prepare for higher premiums. But the botched rollout of the healthcare law and its terrible polling numbers could certainly have something to do with the decision. The Department of Health and Human Services also added 1 week to the open enrollment period, extending it to 8 weeks instead of 7. The postponement doesn't apply to this coverage year, which begins January 1st, 2014, CNN reported. The postponement will give insurers the benefit of more time to evaluate their experiences during the 2014 plan year and allow them to take into account those who may enroll late, including young adults, before setting 2015 rates, an official speaking on the condition of nominee told CNN. The success of the law requires that younger consumers enroll in the exchanges. However, several analysts are concerned that won't happen. And even if younger consumers do try to enroll, the federal healthcare.gov site remains mostly inoperable. The White House needs to either prevent or prepare consumers for premium spikes if it wants to see the law succeed. The death of this law would be for health insurance companies to price policies for the 2015 in the way that premiums skyrocket. Because what I don't think a lot of people understand is that these premiums were based, these exchange premiums were based on what the government told health insurance people or insurance companies that they expected the number of people to enroll. Those premiums are based on a certain number of people. Okay, now we only have like 100,000 people enrolling across the country. Those premiums are going to skyrocket. And at that point, it's going to be a death spiral. And it's all over. Aside from possibly buying time for vulnerable Democrats in 2014 midterm elections, like Mark Pryor, who also lied to people and said that it's going to be affordable and that, we wouldn't lose our coverage. You wouldn't get that letter in the mail that you just got, canceling your insurance. Pryor, that's right, Mark Pryor. Keep your eye on that guy. Anywho, the White House hopes to postpone this to give insurers more time to gradually introduce premium increases. At least they're being honest about it. I mean, at least they're not saying... I'm not even going to defend them. I'm sorry. The implementation of the healthcare law also has so far hit many Americans with cancellations and rate increases, and the administration likely hopes to avoid a repeat of this right before midterm elections. All we ever heard about Obamacare is that it would lower our deductibles and premiums, Minnesota resident Jennifer Slater told CNN. That's just not what's happened. Slater said the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan offered through Obamacare Exchange said she and her husband are considering costs of $1,087 a month with a $6,000 deductible, while a Medica plan was $877 a month with a $12,700 deductible. Did you just hear what I said? $12,700 deductible on the Affordable Health Care Exchange. Both quotes are far more expensive than their current plan. The Arkansas Exchange, I looked at that too, and that's about in line, but I didn't see a $12,000. I think ours were like $6,000 deductibles. That's crazy. But yeah, it's really close. And we'll see how that continues to go, but we need to, like I said, elect folks that are going to repeal this, or we're doomed. Honestly, we're doomed. In Arkansas news, the Arkansas News Bureau reported today that the equipment to produce photographic identification for voters under a new state law has been installed in 75 counties, Secretary of State Mark Martin said yesterday, actually. Under the law, beginning January 1st, voters will have to show photographic proof of identity when they go to the polls. The legislature passed this measure, then overrode Governor Mike Beebe's veto of it. Martin said the last voter ID systems were delivered and installed Wednesday at county clerk's offices in Grant and Saline counties. Free photographic voter ID cards are available to registered voters who sign an oath that they have no other valid form of photo identification, the Secretary of State said in a news release. This project has put counties in compliance with the requirements of Act 595 of 2013. It also provides additional integrity to our electoral system. Act 595 included a broad definition of a valid photo identification besides the new voter identification cards, including post-secondary school-issued IDs, employee ID badges, a concealed handgun permit, a public assistance identification card, U.S. military IDs, and state-issued driver's license or ID cards. Voters who have another form of photographic identification as defined in the Act do not qualify for one of the new voter identification cards. The voter ID systems were purchased from AAMSCO Identification Products, Inc. for $114,974. Each county was provided with one machine. Martin said his office has set up a website with information about the voter identification law and has worked through the civic organizations and others to publicize the new law. Martin also has endorsed a voter education effort on the law that the state Republican Party has said it plans to launch. The state Democrat Party has criticized him for getting involved with an effort by a partisan group. Republican majorities in the House and Senate passed the voter ID bill over the objection of Democrats who argued it was unnecessary and could disenfranchise some Americans, or Arkansans, which is basically what's going on around the country, and I think it's absolutely absurd, and I don't understand why it took so long for us to actually do this here in Arkansas, because it's common sense, and if you don't have documentation, typically you're going to be illegal, and I think the importance of having it outweighs the folks that'll be disenfranchised, because I don't think there'll be any. Anyway, that's all I have. Enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday. Bye-bye.